Welcome. Scott here. Here is a quick boss guide for the upcoming LUFENIA Plus event, Dimensions End Transcendence Tier 6. Before I proceed further, here is a quick overview on how Transcendence works. For any Transcendence stages, your party will get boosted stats if you bring a burst unit for the fight. To access Dimensions End Transcendence, you need to clear up to Tier 5 of Dimensions End Entropy. There are 3 stages that you need to clear for the fight. There are 2 crucibles that you need to clear first before you can access the main gate. The main gate will require you to bring only the characters that you have used for the crucibles. You can't use any of the characters locked to the tier for other tiers unless you unlock them. Firstly, let's break down the requirements of the crucibles. Do take note that LUFENIA auras for crucibles are the standard versions and they are not the restrictive ones that you face in the plus versions. For the left crucible or crucible 1, you will be fighting a sand kraken and an aggressive turtle. The sand kraken has 12 million HP while the aggressive turtle has 13 million HP. The turn requirements are 55 and you need to bring a black crystal unit. The orb requires you to inflict sap or poison debuff that results boss to take brave damage. There will be additional bonuses if the debuff break the boss. This tier is specifically designed to the strengths of the reworked chaos. For the right crucible or crucible 2, you will be fighting a Bastion giant. The Bastion giant has 18 million HP. The turn requirement is 75 and you need to bring a yellow crystal unit. This crucible features one of the most restrictive LUFENIA orb that you will ever see. You will need to do 3 consecutive launches to uptick the orb. The tier is designed to the strengths of the new LD unit, Self-It. Upon clearing both crucibles, you will be able to access the main reckoning stage or the middle gate. It consists of 2 waves. The first wave you will be fight 2 Argent Officiants and the final wave you will be fighting 2 Purpure Mantis. The Argent Officiant has 6 million HP each while the Purpure Mantis has 9 million HP each. The turn count for the fight is 95 and the HP requirements is 10,000. Only the first wave you will face a LUFENIA Plus orb. The orb requires to inflict a total of 8 debuffs on the enemies, which also favors the feature BT unit, Chaos a lot. Before I continue further, here is a small disclaimer clause for the video. The guide is written based on the time that the stage was released for the Japanese version. Please do note that it is possible that the boss fight mechanics might differ when the actual event is released in global. Let's cover on the mechanics of the first crucible. You need to bring a black crystal unit for the stage and units that can inflict sap and poison debuff to uptick the orb. Firstly, let's cover the orb triggers. The orb condition is the same for both bosses. The only difference is the timing of the triggers. The Sand Kraken will start with the LUFENIA orb active with a counter of 10. The orb will disappear for the Kraken once its HP dropped to 29%. The LUFENIA orb for aggressive turtle will appear when its HP dropped to 79%. The orb is non-cancelable for the turtle. You will get bonus uptick if the boss got broken by the debuff. This means Chaos's Doom debuff will come handy here. To uptick the orb, you can equip a Ferris or then Cred RF sphere on each slot of a character. If you have Orin equipped with one of the previously mentioned poison debuff sphere, he can solo this tier on his own. However, do expect the run could take up to 30+ minutes to complete. My recommended units for fulfilling the orb conditions are Chaos, Yuffie, Maria, Ferris, X-Death, and Gavrin. My recommended black crystal units are Chaos, Leon, Shantato, Orin, Kefka, and Shadow. Like standard LUFENIA fights, the bosses will gain auras at 79% and 49% HP threshold. At the 49% HP threshold, the Sand Kraken will gain a massive amount of Brave. On the screen, you will see the key auras triggers for both the Kraken and Turtle. Now let's talk about the boss mechanics. The Sand Kraken attacks are mainly Tentacle Explosion, a single target Brave plus HP attack. It can delay a unit by 2 turns with Stonera. It will always buff its with Sand Flurry before it uses Tentacle Explosion. The turtle has two stances, standing and retreat mode. It will gain an additional 75% brave damage reduction aura once it gets to retreat mode. It will use one of the following three attacks: Raise Stone, Water God, or Laceration. The Sand Kraken are primarily focused on single target, while the turtle will start to use it AoE Brave plus HP attack, Great Geyser, once its HP drop below 49%. This fight is pretty easy to handle if you bring a cover tank like Orin, Glove, or Gladiolus. Counter units like Gao and Beatrix also works here. I will recommend to prioritize on killing the turtle first, since it has an AoE Brave plus HP attack. You will know the Great Geyser is coming when the turtle is targeting all. The turtle can also gains high turn rate when it uses Spontaneity Brave attack. Please do note that boss needs to take a turn to uptick the orb for the poison or sap debuff Brave damage to trigger. If you don't want to play the counter game, you can nuke past the stage with BT units like Cloud of Darkness, Ace, Jet, or Chaos. Although it is possible to solo the stage with Orin, you might want to consider bring additional units just in case if you have problems in setting up the right teams for the Reckoning stage. Now, let's cover the other Crucible. For this Crucible, you need to bring a yellow crystal unit. The orb is an ultra-restrictive one that the options to uptick the orb is quite limited. To uptick the orb back to its max of 15, you need to do 3 consecutive launches. The game will have a purple counter once you trigger a launch. If you didn't trigger it 3 consecutive launches, you won't uptick the orb. For yellow crystal units, my recommend units are Selphie, Lael, Quistis, Ramza, Kais and Tifa. Selphie will provide the easier solution for the orb, since her LD will delay the boss 2 turns and allows you trigger launch on every turn as long as its Rapture debuff is on the boss. Is the stage impossible to clear if you don't have Selphie? The answer is a definite no. Let's go through with the other options. If you have Lael BT, he will trigger launch on every turn during his burst phase. His BT effect along with his turn manipulation can assist in making launches easier to execute. If Sid Reigns is still available, he can also be used to handle the orb in 2 waves. You can set a launch call on him. Use the launch call for the first launch, have him use Heavenly Fist HP plus for second launch, and lastly any of his skills for the third launch. His delay and turn manipulation is also great for the fight. For me, my Lael and Reigns are locked in Tier 3 and Tier 5. I could use this third method if I don't want to pull for Selphie. I could use them as calls and use it on a launcher. Reigns LDCA is very useful for nuking down the boss HP if you place it on your burst unit. You can also use them on a launcher unit. Here is an example. Assuming you are using Lael call on Tifa, do the following steps. Use Lael LDCA for first launch, use Lael base call for the second launch, have Tifa use her EX for the last launch. In my personal opinion, Selphie is a valuable unit to pull for and great for future investment as well. I will going to pull for her because Final Fantasy VIII is my favorite Final Fantasy series. She will get even better in the future. In my opinion, she is a very good support for launch comps. On the screen, you will see the LUFENIA aura triggers. When the LUFENIA aura triggers, the boss will gain a red aura and activate its destructive power stance, where it will get 50% HP damage resist, 50% defense boost and 100% boost to its attack. If you give it a turn, it will chain 3 boss action that end with the acoustic pressure wave AoE HP attack. On the right side of the screen, you will see screen grabs on how the orb works. This is most likely a boss no turn fight, so I won't bother to talk much about the boss mechanics. Depending on your team comp, do expect you need to trigger 3 set of triple consecutive launches, as the boss has a massive 18 million HP pool to deplete. With the 2 crucibles out of the way, let's focus on the main Reckoning stage. You will be restricted to use 6 of the units that you used for the earlier Crucible stages. Here is a quick overview of the fight. The fight consists of 2 waves. The first wave you will be fight 2 Argent Officiant, and the second wave you will be fighting 2 Purpure Mantis. The turn count is 95 and the HP requirements is 10,000. The first wave features an orb that you need to inflict 8 debuffs in 1 turn. There are 2 enemies for the wave, so you just need to inflict 4 debuffs to uptick the orb. Other than Chaos, other units can fulfill this role are Yuffie, Ferris, Gavrant and Kefka. For the second wave, you will face a new enemy type, the Purpure Mantis. There is no LUFENIA orb for this wave, but the boss will gain in strength with fewer debuffs on it. The boss will instantly warp its turns after you act if there are 6 or lesser debuffs. I will discuss more on the mechanics in the later slides. The Argent Officiants are always an annoying boss to fight. I have incorporated a flowchart diagram on how they switch their stances. At the start of the fight, the lower HP Argent Officiant will be using Flare Star on its following turn, while the other end will target self to go to Levitate stance. Do note that Flare Star could hurt a lot if you get broken by it. Debuffs will be cleansed whenever Argent Officiant uses Begin Chanting. One of them will be in Levitate stance while the other one will remain grounded. They will alternate turns to levitate after that. At the 49% HP threshold, both Argent Officiants will use Begins, a powerful chant, when it will cleanse all debuffs, boost its max brave and gains immunity to delay and weak to ranged attacks. Immunity will be cancelled when the Argent used Globated Crush Plus on its following turn. Try to kill both of them at the same time. The surviving one will enrage itself with stats boost. On the screen you will see the triggers for the LUFENIA Plus auras. Brave damage and brave gain reductions could go as high as 90%. The boss will gain 200% defense boost at the start of the fight and 300% defense boost at the 79% HP. As usual, lower their defense and brave damage resistance with defense down and brave damage up calls. At the 49% HP threshold it will begin the powerful chant phase. Both of them will levitate, cleanse all debuffs, gains 4 buffs and gains massive brave. Once in this stance, it will be immune to delays and lowers its resistance to ranged damage. It will follow up with Globated Crush Plus on its following turn. After that, it will descend to the ground and cancel its resistances. If you trigger the threshold while one of the Argent is in the air, you will avoid the debuffs cleanse mechanic. If you kill one of them first, the surviving Argent will trigger the bursting with magic energy phase. It will trigger a powerful chant phase and will gain a green aura on top of it, where it will further boost its attack and defense by 50%. Try to kill both of them together where possible. Keep their HP close so you won't face a fight with the surviving Argent with additional stats boost. If you are running a limited debuffing squad, avoid using all your debuffs here as you need them as well for the next wave. We have come to the final section of the boss guide. This is the final wave for the Reckoning stage. You will fight 2 new enemies, the Purpure Mantis. Depending on your setup, the fight can be a hard one or an easy one. The boss will gain more resistances and mechanic bonus if there are fewer debuffs on it. 1. With 8 debuffs and lesser, it will gain 50% boost to attack, defense and speed. 2. With 6 debuffs and lesser, it will instant warp its turn after your party acts. 3. With 4 debuffs and lesser, it will gain 50% HP and brave damage boost to its attacks. 4. With 1 debuff or lesser, it will gain 200% HP and brave damage resistance. If you are bringing a counter unit or cover tank, the turn warp will be negated by the counters. It will be problematic though if you are not bringing a counter tank. The best option is delay the boss to oblivion. The boss can buff themselves with 3 non-framed buffs with rend. This can be annoying as if the debuffs you inflicted on the boss are not framed. The boss will gain its LUFENIA Plus auras at 89% and 59% HP thresholds with debuffs cleansing. As the boss doesn't warp its turn while in summon or burst phase, Use the summon phase to trigger the threshold and make sure you have a debuff call on standby so you can lower its resistances to much manageable level. The boss has 2 modes and it will change the color of its petals from yellow to purple. While it is purple it will gain 50% brave damage up. It will revert back to yellow after 2 to 3 turns. We have come to the final slide of the guide. On the screen you will see the triggers for the LUFENIA Plus auras. Like the first wave, brave damage and brave gain reductions could go as high as 90%. The boss will gain 200% defense boost at the start of the fight and 300% defense boost at the 89% HP. As usual, lower their defense and brave damage resistance with defense down and brave damage up calls. When the LUFENIA Plus orb triggers, they will also cleanse all debuffs as well. So, remember to reapply them on your next turn. It is advisable to trigger 59% HP threshold while in the summon so that you can reapply the debuffs to avoid stats and mechanic boosts that boss gets with fewer debuffs on them. We have come to the end of the guide. Hopefully, this will help you. If you like the video, please give it a like. If you are looking forward future content like this, please subscribe to my channel. Good luck and bye.